like this. Let me bring up myself. That might help. Can you guys hear me? I hope.
I can hear you.
And, okay, and then we got Dan Norvell, and we've got Larry Eissler, and
Hello.
and and he's the third. And I probably Eissler. Did I pronounce it right?
It's a little heavier in the German, Eissler.
Eissler.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll never forget that one again.
it's straight out of the
Anyway,
jar of sauerkraut.
okay, that's cool. It's not as good as Polish kraut, but I'll take it any way I can get it. Well, anyway, uh, it's great having you guys. It's been a while. I know you guys have been extremely busy. You guys have come up with some fantastic stuff, and I'm using the word stuff like anybody else would. Okay, it's actually it's actually works of art,
Thank you.
and to some people they don't understand that until they see the difference between certain people that film certain things and then other people that film certain things. And it's
Sure.
an eye. And I know Dan's got the eye as well as you do, Larry, because I've seen him with a bow and a correct killing carp. So he's got quite a good eye.
I've
So
I've seen him pull some monsters out of the river,
yeah,
so I'd have to agree. What was
and
Carpzilla, Dan? He was like what, a foot and a half
Yeah,
almost?
he was about 27 inches long.
2 feet? Yeah, it was
whoa.
huge.
He was a big carp.
Huge.
Well, the last time I really had the opportunity to really work with you guys, you took us out to the Black Hawk war sites,
Yeah.
and that was a great time. And it's still to this day I talk about the statue that was in that park of a president, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
it was like I was mind boggled by the fact that, and I don't know how many people in the chat know this, but how old was he when they decide did the statue?
During the Black Hawk War of 1832, he was a very young man. I'd have to look up his birthday to know for sure.
I would say
20.
mid to late
Mid 20s, yeah. Without knowing his birthday off the top of my head, I'd say mid 20s, mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
So between both you guys, and that was a pinnacle part of both you gentlemen when you got together and started really working together well, as
Mhm.
far as the information you were passing on to the public, and in the book, and the war sites, and things that I had no idea occurred in the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys take turns and just mention about what that was all about, that war?
So the Black Hawk War of 1832, it stemmed from the Treaty of St. Louis in 1804. And the Treaty of
1904. Or no,
1804.
1804. Yes.
You shut your damn mouth.
Hey. Watch it.
The Treaty of St. Louis, 1804. To make a long story short, the Sauk and the Fox tribes basically got the short end of the stick.
Yes.
They traded almost 2/3 of the state of Illinois, their entire Illinois territory, for next to nothing. Just a bunch of crops, some alcohol, and
And
really
some furs, I think, wasn't
and
it,
some
Larry?
yeah,
Yeah, some
just
furs.
just trade material. When you look at how much they gave up, it was almost 2/3 of our current state, all gone. So the person that ratified that treaty didn't have the approval of the entire tribe like they're supposed to. That wasn't their job. They were a different type of leader. But some historians believe that that particular Native American got some kickbacks. Politics, they go all the way back to 1804 too. And lo and behold, all the Sauk and the Fox had to vacate to Iowa. Black Hawk, who was not a chief, by the way, he was a war chief. His job was war. And in the War of 1812, he was promoted to a brigadier general for the British for the service that he had in northern Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula. Well, after the War of 1812, Black Hawk came back, and it just didn't sit right with him. Their ancestral home, which is present-day Rock Island, Their ancestral home, Stalkenach, was part of this treaty, and now they can never go back. Their ancestors are there, their families are there. They left their homes, they left their whole civilization behind for nothing.
Just let me interject, Larry. One of Blackhawk's biggest things, and Larry and I both read his autobiography. His ancestors were buried there, and what really came across in the book that did not set well with him is he could never visit his ancestors' burials again.
I just said that. I just said that.
I know what you said, but what I'm adding that you want to just do the interview and I'll head out now.
I just said that.
I understand that. What I'm saying is in the autobiography, he really drove the fact home that that was one of the biggest things that really did not set well with him was, everything that Larry set aside. That was one of the biggest things is I can't go back and visit my grandfather's grave. I can't go back and do that, and
that was a big part of their culture.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Big part of their culture. So, so it didn't sit well with him. Here is where history is kind of divided. So now you have April-ish, maybe March of 1832, and Black Hawk is crossing the Mississippi. Some historians believe it's to retake Socanock, to retake his ancestral home, or at least to visit it. Others historians believe that he's going to go and move to White Cloud's village, another village approximately, what would you say, Dan? Like a couple 100 miles away, give or take. And he was invited to live there because supposedly the treaty was that the Sauk and the Fox had to go. But if they joined White Cloud's tribe, they would no longer be the Sauk or Fox. And the Potawatomis, the Winnebagos, they still had territory in Illinois, but they worked better with the federal government. Long story short, no matter what the reason was, Black Hawk and his British band of approximately 1,000, mostly warriors, but there were women, children, and the elderly, they crossed the Mississippi on April 6th of 1832. And from crossing to where they eventually went and made camp outside of Rockville, Illinois, which is where the Kishwaukee and the Rock River meet, there was constant correspondence between General Atkinson and several other officers saying, you got to turn back. You need to turn back. And Black Hawk basically brushed them all off. And we get to Black Hawk's gathering site. At this point, they're starving. They don't have much food. He sends a lot of his warriors out to go and gather food while he meets with some of the local tribes to ask for help, to ask for food, and no one's willing to help him. They're all saying, this is your battle, you got to fight it. And even though he sacrificed some of his best dogs to eat, they offered no help. And then we have what happened with the Battle of Stillman's Run. Do you want to pick up there, Dan?
So basically, Isaiah Stillman brings in 275 of his militia, and they were under the false pretense that even though Black Hawk's forces were of 1,000, they were better armed, they were better trained, blah, 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 which is not true because they weren't better armed. Black Hawk's forces were probably better armed than our militia. Like Larry
better
said,
trained.
He was a brigadier general. Black Hawk was one heck of a tactician. The British taught him the art of guerrilla warfare. And, Isaiah Stillman rolls in with his militia. And I want to say they got a lot of stuff stuck in the mud. They
had a whiskey cart get stuck in the mud because it had rained the night before. And they didn't want the whiskey to go to waste.
So they drank it. But it also kept them from moving, knowing that their whiskey cart got buried in the mud. It kept them from moving any cannons or anything else that they might have had to give support. So it was just the militia. And, but they still were very confident that they were going to, take, this wasn't going to be a hard thing to overcome. And, Black Hawk, in his wisdom, decided, you know what? We have too many children, women, and elderly here. It's not worth it. I'm not going to sacrifice your lives for this. So we're going to go under a flag of parley and agree to go back across the Mississippi, and that's it. So he sends 3 emissaries down to Stillman's camp to surrender under a flag of parley. Well, the bad thing is that most of the militia was drunk, number one. They really didn't have anybody who spoke Sauk, and they thought it was a trick. So the militia end up shooting one of the emissaries right in camp. And Black Hawk had a couple scouts out watching what exactly was going to go down here. And when they saw that happen, they returned to the camp and told Black Hawk they shot one of our warriors, and looks like the war's on. And Black Hawk says, "Fine, all bets are off. We're going to war." So, you look back on that, and if they hadn't been drinking, and it hadn't been raining, and cooler heads would have prevailed, probably wouldn't even be talking about the Black Hawk War. It would have just been a big, surrender, and they would have moved back across peacefully, and that would have been it. Not the case. So Black Hawk and about, what was it, Larry, 40 of his warriors attacked Stillman and all 275 militia by moonlight. So you got to imagine, when we took you out there, Greg, it's a battleground with a big monument, and it's in the middle of a town now. This was the open prairie, and they're up, camped on this hillside, and all of a sudden, out of the tree lines, muzzle flashes just boom, 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 start, and they start their attack. I mean, it was full-on surprise from everywhere, all around them. And Stillman and most of the men retreated all the way back to Dixon's Ferry. The funny thing is if you read Stillman's accounts of it, he was the brave one, making sure his men got out of there. Most of the men's accounts were they couldn't even keep up with him to Dixon, because he was
his account was very fancified.
yeah, he was writing the fastest.
Whew.
So Captain John Giles Adams and a few other men decided to stand their ground at the battleground in Stillman Valley, so that Isaiah Stillman and the other 260 men could get away, 263 or whatever. So Captain Adams and the men that are buried there, and the other 3 stones that represent the other men that were lost in that particular skirmish, were the only lives lost from the militia. I think Black Hawk probably only lost 2 or 3.
It's 2 or 3, yeah.
Black Hawk never left his dead. They always carried him off and buried him elsewhere. Just so that we would not know, when I say we, the United States would not know how many men he really truly had, because we never know how many we truly killed. So, yeah, I mean, when we're down there communicating, Greg, we're usually talking to Captain Adams and those men.
That's a pretty fantastic place. I could feel it. I wish that I would have been set up a little differently, and I learned a lot, because that was the last time that I did that kind of investigation by myself, basically, and with people that, some of them that didn't really care if they really learned it or not. So,
sure,
it's a hard thing to say when you're talking about paranormal investigators, but I have to be critical, because I'm critical about how I do my own things.
Well, we have to be fair that not everybody in the paranormal is in it for the history. There are some people that just love the science of it. They love the discovery aspect of obtaining the unobtainable. And there's some people that are in it for the thrills. It's just what it is. People are people. I'm very fortunate that all 5 of us on our cast are in it for the history.
That's really fantastic. That's, and that the other two questions before we go ahead and go to currently of what you guys are up to, I want to set me right or wrong. I felt that when we were out there that it was mentioned that Black Hawk had trained underneath the French too, or was it the Americans?
The British. The War of 1812, he was appointed a brigadier general of his British band, which were all natives, but in that training, they used muskets. It's not like they were riding with bows and arrows. They had modern weaponry, and they were fairly successful in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, and the Upper Peninsula. And when he came back after the War of 1812, they were just as well armed.
But he wasn't involved in the 1700s at all.
Not that I know of.
How old was he?
So when the Black Hawk War of 1832 went on, I believe he was 62.
64.
64. And all prior to that, there were a lot of skirmishes between tribes, especially the Sioux. They were very, very, very against the Sioux. But a lot of the tribes in the Illinois area, there was a lot of infighting, but that was kind of the thing that happened back then. And then you've got the French Indian War, which I don't recall if Black Hawk was ever a part of that, but I'm sure that they knew well of it.
That's why I asked that, because for some reason I had that in the back of my craw, considering the fact that I thought that somebody had said, and I'm not saying you two guys had said it, but I thought that the French were brought up and he had learned some techniques or battle operations from the French as well. But
as far as I know, I believe it's just the British.
Yeah, it's the British.
But the British were against the French, right?
In the War of 1812? Yeah. That was us.
No,
that was
us. Yeah, it was not as big as the Revolutionary War, but there was a lot of back and forth up in that Upper Peninsula, New York, Upper Wisconsin area, because the British really wanted Canada. They really wanted it. And we had our stakes in some spots too. And they persuaded several of the tribes, including Black Hawk's British band, to side with them, the British, against us. And ironically enough, somehow we persuaded some of the tribes to side with us as well, even though we've never kept a treaty. I'll never understand that one, but
ever.
There's like one maybe in all of existence we've kept, and then we broke it later. But yeah, so as far as I know, it's just the British. I'd have to do more research to know for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Or I'll just send Paige off to do it. Paige.
So this last year, you guys had some real unbelievable videos that you came out with. And you did a lot of stuff around the area where we were all at, like Broadhead and that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as your investigations were concerned, and you did quite a few really great investigations there. Did you just use one camera or did you use two?
So the show is shot with two cameras. Most of the time, you can see Steve. Steve's our second or B camera operator. You can see him in the shots. It's a really good way to make him a part of what's going on.
Yeah, that's Steve Wren.
Steve Wren, yeah. Okay. He's investigator / camera operator. We've been working with Steve for over a decade. He knows exactly what I want. And I can give the camera to Dan or Steve, and I'm going to get my shot. So sometimes if the building's big enough, we can finagle the shot to have him in it. Sometimes the building's too small and he has to shoot through a doorway in the other room just to make things work, and he's not in it. But every session, with the exception of one or two, is always two cameras.
Okay,
Sometimes
now
it's a single shot, such as in season 2 when we went to the Oregon Public Library. Dan did kind of a single mobile camera where he was walking around with his daughter Lexi, but then the second shot ended up being a static cam that we had set up. So I'm still getting my second shot, but primarily it was him with the one camera.
To the people in the comments section here, can you explain a static cam?
A static cam is a single camera, or in this case, camcorder, that's on a tripod, and it sits there permanently. It doesn't pan, it doesn't tilt. It sits in the exact position that I want it to sit in, and it just records. For some of the things that we do, we'll put a trigger object in front of the static cam. Let's say a broadhead. It's known that in the funeral parlor, a cat ball will go off if you put it on the carpet in front of the casket. Okay, right. Well, then we're going to put a bunch of cat balls in a line, and we'll put a static cam on it, and then we'll walk away for 30 minutes. And then within that 30 minutes, we might not be in there, but the cat ball might go off, and then the camera picks it up. Other times, a static camera is set up when we want to do something more mobile. So, for example, this video that I mentioned from the second season for the Oregon Public Library, we had a static cam set up because there's supposed to be footprints in this upper space, the art gallery. Well, I needed a static cam in there to prove that it wasn't one of us if we hear footprints. So when Dan wanted to go up there with just Lexi by himself holding a camera, there's my second shot, because now I have a wide shot of him walking around with her. And then when they focus on one thing, I cut to his camera to show the audience what they're looking at or what they're talking about. So sometimes it's purely for investigation. Sometimes it's for production too.
Okay, so out of that season 1, from both of you, what was your best location that you really thought was the best one?
For season 1?
Yeah.
Season 1 is a very different show than what we're doing now, because season 1 was only Dan and I. Season 2 is kind of where the current formula started.
Okay, but I'm still looking at season 1.
Yeah,
because I'm going to dig a little bit.
Okay.
Sure.
Season 1.
I think the most interesting was Maple Cemetery.
Yeah. You go ahead. I'll give mine.
And I think, ultimately we ended that season at Broadhead Manor. First time we'd ever investigated it as Expedition Entity, which was just me and Larry. And Bill joined us actually. And but at Maple Cemetery, it was one of the first times that we, as Larry and I, were using the Phasma box.
Which we got because of an investigation where you were there. Right.
I got cussed at several times. We got a lot of different answers. We got a lot of activity that night. And the thing about it is this little cemetery, and Greg, you've been there. It's just a little country cemetery in town, and we've got great stuff there. One of the best catches, which is our thermal catch, was filmed at Maple Cemetery.
You see the point that I'm trying to make is because of where you guys started, and if you really looked at it, that was the culmination of the year to me for your
back
show.
Then, yeah.
And now you've gone ahead and you've gone about 9 million miles away, and you guys are still together, and you're still producing some really great stuff. And it's hard for other people to keep up with you.
I don't know about that.
No, seriously. I'm talking about around here. And I'm talking about, to know you guys is to know people that really produce as far as the film industry is concerned for the paranormal itself. There's not too many that can keep up with you from what I've seen. And I'm not blowing you out of the water with this. I'm just speaking from what I've seen in my own evaluation. Somebody else could say, "Hey, Larry and Dan, you guys suck." That's not me, because
Sure.
of what I've seen.
Sure.
But I don't go around saying things unless I've seen it first.
Yeah.
That's the important part. So you go to season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden you guys are you're on a run. You're just
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah.
So it's like you went through your first streak of three wins in a row.
Well, for season 1, it actually got off to a really rough start. We had I think it was either 4 or 5 episodes already done, shot, edited, ready to go. And then some person decided they didn't want to be in the episodes anymore. And we didn't have a likeness agreement back then. So then all the episodes got pulled. We had to reshoot season 1 within 6 weeks. So 5 episodes were shot and edited and put out all within 6 weeks.
With just Larry and I.
With just Dan and I. Steve was in the first episode. That was at the Veterans Memorial Hall. But after that, it was just Dan and I. So when season 2 came around, now we have more than 6 weeks to do this. We can plan ahead a little bit more. Now
And
we bring Steve back full time.
Yeah.
And now we can bring in guest investigators and other really cool gadgets that we've acquired along the way. And that kind of just opened the door for the show once we got to season 2.
Which,
that's awesome.
Incidentally, Steve, as a matter of fact, we were asked this at the Rockford Paracon a few weeks back. Stevie and I have known each other actually longer than I've known Larry. Steve, when I started Small Town Paranormal way back when, Steve and his mom used to come to our public fan ghost hunt. So I met Steve probably a good year and a half before I ever met Larry.
Yeah. So you're saying Steve Wren?
Yeah.
Steve Wren, yes.
He's still with us all this time later.
Still with me, yes. Steve and I became fast friends. We just never got to really work together. And then when we started kind of going off on this video thing, it made sense to bring Steve on with us. And he's been with us ever since. And it's
right. Well, it's important to have it's important to have dedicated people.
Right. And then he's a good guy.
And a guy that's been around for 6 years, all of a sudden you're just like, yeah, this guy's dedicated.
Yeah, this guy needs to be with us. Steve just said, I never missed a fan ghost hunt. He did not.
No.
Joanne Stewart asked, what's the name of our show? It is Expedition Entity on Paraflix. Sorry, I'm not watching chat.
You're doing a great job.
He's had a lot of practice because I get on him about watching chat.
Keep on going. That's good.
The most important thing you could do on a show is watch chat and interact with people.
And Joanne Stewart says she's from Canada.
Yeah, okay. I just saw that. So
then
if you
know quite a bit about
if you want to expand your show now and go to above the border, I don't know how they
in Canada pretty bad. Actually,
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
I don't know how you'd be able to get across there with your gear. I can't. We could hardly get across with fishing rods.
Yeah. You'd have to figure it out. I have some friends in the film industry that could give me some pointers, but it'd be costly. It'd be costly.
Nancy says, stop in Minnesota.
Not this winter, but maybe in the summer, because at least in the summer we'll be able to get through Minnesota.
And Wild Bill's in the room, and he's from Atlanta,
Georgia.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people in here
Victoria says, come to Texas.
I want to go.
You know Victoria, right?
Yes. I love Texas.
Victoria she's on my other show. She's part of a rotating group now that just came on with us. And she's just awesome. Now Paige Dalton, is that one of your girls?
She's one of our new cast members. Yep. Okay. And Paige also serves as the history person for our show too.
Paige is great at history.
So she gets serious about it. I mean, really, when you ask her, she doesn't screw around or not, does she?
Paige was a prior history teacher. So once I start going, hey, did you know this about this location? She'll message me the next day about this rabbit hole she went down of all this history about the location that I just briefly mentioned to her. And I'm like, thank you. That's the information I was looking for. You're the best ever.
So for this year, are you going to keep your main area in Southwest Wisconsin, or are you going to go ahead and branch out?
There's a little bit of branching. We're still hovering around the border. The hardest thing for us to schedule for the show is Dan's work, because it has a schedule of its own, and that schedule supersedes all other schedules. So when they say, "Hey, buddy, you're coming into work today," we have to go, "Oh no, when are we going to shoot this episode?" So we're trying to stay local-ish, 2 to 3 hours, ish.
Yeah, there's a lot of territory there, and there's a lot of ground to cover.
It's very hard for me to do overnights and stuff and then try to recoup before I have to be back to my next 12-hour shift.
Okay.
So,
but so far we've done pretty well at it.
And you're such an intricate member of the team anyway that it's hard to go ahead and see anybody doing anything without Dan Norvell.
I've said it quite a few times. I could be the most amazing cinematographer ever. If I don't have somebody in front of the camera that knows what they're doing, all that I'm doing is worthless.
Right.
It means nothing. So I need Dan in front, because Dan knows exactly what I want, and he does it on the first take, and then we're good.
I think when I proved my worth to Larry,
oh boy,
we had the chance, and it's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah,
but we had the chance last July to work with one of our favorite people, Miranda Young, Ghost Biker Explorations. Miranda Young,
I'm jealous. I'm really
Miranda
jealous.
is the nicest lady you would ever want to meet, and she is a true Southern belle with true Southern charm.
Yeah.
So we get to work with her. We fly her up here, and we shot a documentary with Miranda. And so we're trying to get Miranda to, she's trying to do her lines, and Larry's looking for her to do it a certain way.
It's the saunter. It's the walk and step.
The walk and step and
talk.
And so she tried it about, 4 or 5 times, and Miranda hadn't done that. She finally said, guys, when I do this for me, I'm doing it with a whole different mindset. So it's really hard to grasp this. And I said, Miranda, here, this is what he's looking for. And so we pull up the cue card, and I say it, and I walk, and I do this. And Larry's behind the camera going, my God.
He listens.
He goes, Miranda, that's exactly how you have to do it. And we all burst out laughing because, he's got me trained.
Oh, exactly. Now all of a sudden he's getting blown up.
I've taught Dan very well.
That's what I mean. That's what I was talking about before we came on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it. It's the chemistry that you guys got going between each other and the people that you have in your group and the people you work with. Miranda Young is just, she's another
awesome.
one.
Top
I
class.
can't say enough about Miranda.
Top class.
I could have her on the show, and she could do my show.
Yeah.
I don't have to say really anything. She could just.
Yeah, Miranda.
She's a pro.
I've enjoyed her every time I've had her on. I just,
mm-hmm.
and I'm still trying to get down there by her.
We are too.
Us too.
Oh God, I'll tell you.
Every time we go to Planet, we're like, okay, I know we need 3 or 4 days, and Dan's like, yeah, I can't take that much time off from work. Well then I guess we're not going.
The bad thing is trying to take the time off work to get everything else accomplished. Yeah. And having told that story and having mentioned Miranda, we don't realize how lucky we were to get her up here to be able to do that, because Miranda's a busy lady. She's a very busy lady.
Yeah, really something in her schedule just happened to cancel, and she was open the exact week we needed to film. And she's like,
that odd?
Yeah, I'll come up. And me and Dan are like, Oh,
Wow.
And I was able to get that time off, and we spent a week.
Ooh.
Miranda
Yeah.
was up here for 4 days.
Four
and,
or 5 days, yeah.
And I mean, we ran nonstop.
Yet long day. Well, you might not know this, Greg. We talk about it sometimes, but we don't talk about it often. A filming day for Expedition Entity is minimum like 14 to 16 hours, up to 18 plus. So when Dan says we went nonstop, we always go. We go nonstop.
And with that, we had a full crew. I mean, we had a sound mixer, we had
boom operator,
we had an assistant director. We had, we pulled out all the stops, and I was impressed, let alone anyone else being impressed.
Was there a food truck?
There was not a food truck.
Well, I mean, me and the assistant director were the food truck. we made food, we ordered food, we brought in what we could, and
Larry and I put a lot of miles on our vehicles during that week-long shoot.
A lot of miles.
Well,
because I drove to pick Miranda up from the airport, drove her to the hotel, and then Dan would get her from the hotel to the shoot site. But I still had to drive from my house to the shoot site, and then just a lot of back and forth. And
so Larry did the initial airport to hotel, and then hotel to airport, and then I did all the transporting between with one of our vehicles. I mean, it just.
Wow.
But I'll tell you what, the only thing she ever bought on that trip was, I think, a pop and some chips.
Yeah, we made sure we
she didn't pay for a dime.
We took Miranda out to dinner every night, and it was a good time. And when we got to meet Miranda and hang out with her, and we got to take her to Maple and hang out with her, and we made a friend for life. I mean, I will treasure Miranda. And shame on me because I don't get to talk to her that much because she's busy. We're busy. Everybody's busy, but
busy.
You got to make time to reconnect with the people that you really like to work with. And it was our honor to be able to work with Miranda. That was just awesome.
Well, Carol in chat put synchronicity. It was meant to be with Miranda. 100%.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely,
100%.
Carol. Yes.
It just the clouds parted and here comes Miranda down to save the day for us.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it was July and she was committed to the Ghost Biker bit. So
she was
her boots, her jeans, her leather jacket, and she was dying.
I felt so bad for her. And at one point, remember, Larry, we had to stop the shoot because she was pushing herself. Yeah. She was going to go down from heat exhaustion. And me being an ex-paramedic, I said, that's enough. We're done.
Right. No matter what job Dan has on the set, he's also the set medic. So sometimes he's like producer. Set medic.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's pretty wild.
It's fun. It's a fun, interesting life that we're starting to lead here.
So this Estes Roadhouse.
Okay.
What roadhouse are we talking about?
Go ahead, Dan.
The Roadhouse is in Oregon, Illinois, and that is the last place that Mary Jane Reed and Stanley Skridla were seen alive. The Mary Jane Reed murder, which Stanley was murdered as well, but it's always brought under Mary Jane because she was there or from Oregon. Oldest cold case file in Ogle County.
Unsolved.
Everybody thinks they know who did it, but nobody's willing to stand on the rooftops and shout it out. So,
is this the first cold case you guys have done or worked on?
But probably the first cold case that's ever made any headlines.
Yeah. There might be some more minor ones that were never discovered. Murder victims to where we know that somebody died here. We've talked to their spirit, but we don't know anything else. One, for example, is the Hanging Bride Bridge. A young woman hung herself from the bridge. Okay. Well, we don't know who it was, and it could be a cold case, an unsolved case, but we don't even know who it was, and we can't get that information. So,
well, we have some video on our YouTube of the death on the railroad tracks,
right?
And
That's a cold case that they just kind of said, he was drunk.
They
It was suicide.
accepted it as a suicide, but I'm here to tell you, Greg, it wasn't a suicide.
Right. So, but the Roadhouse is a really great place.
So do you want to show that first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this first one, it's the one with her wearing the cap, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that one, we're in the bar. It's a bar restaurant. So this is the bar. And once you look at the footage, Dan is in the background wearing the Estes setup, the headphones, the eye covers, and he's facing the wall. He's facing away from Jen, who's about 8-ish feet away. And she's facing away from Dan, talking to Steve holding the camera.
Okay.
So
Can you tell Dan what number this is?
You
I can't tell him. You have to tell him for me.
5. Move.
You want me to move? Do you still want to come and play?
the video's laggy.
It's freezing up on us.
Yeah.
Is that what it's doing?
Yeah.
It's still moving.
Just barely. So there's our wide shot where you can see that they're a good way away. Jen is only showing Steve.
That's Steve right there.
That's Steve, camera operator.
Stevie the man.
But we don't have any sound from Jen though. This is always the problem with StreamYards, I find. StreamYard never likes playing video.
Doesn't like to play well, and plus you got to think you shot that at pretty.
They're 4K video.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one then. See if this one's better.
I think they might all have the same problem.
Let's
It's
see.
Has anyone
pretty
ever
high
been killed in this
quality
room
video.
before?
Don't
Do you not want me to ask that question?
stop.
Okay. Is that a touchy?
Don't
Is that a touchy subject? Is it-
stop.
Okay.
Well, I'll talk about this one. So this is in the butcher's room where I'm trying to ask questions about how Mary Jane died, or questions about, was somebody ever killed in the butcher's room, or is there human blood down the drain? And all my questions kept going with stop, don't, stop, don't. So it's almost like the spirits through the Estes were trying to get us to not ask those questions, or they weren't going to answer them.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. So let's go to the third one.
All right. I'm gonna wrap it up here in a sec, and then we'll be up.
Done.
Well, unfortunately, we're done too. So this is your last chance. Is there anything that you want to say?
Scare me.
I don't know if I can scare you.
Bum.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-oh. Well, we lost the volume, but let the video play.
Only because Larry thinks that's funny.
It didn't play. So she goes, scare me. And then I go, well, I don't think I can scare you. I think I'm talking to the spirit here. I don't think I can scare the spirit. And then it calls me a bum. And then it goes, impossible. And then right as I go to let Jen know that we're done, she goes, ah! and I scare the crap out of her. It's the funniest clip that I have from that episode. I absolutely love it.
So out of your members that you have on the team right now, how many are really good? How many people really do good work with us?
For the newest cast, I'd have to say Sierra. That kind of is the thing that she loves doing the most, it seems like.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm not great at it because I can't get into it. You know what I mean? Like I can't get into the trance. I'm very analytical with it. So instead of my answer being don't, stop, sometimes I'll go, I think it said don't. You know, like I can't get deep. So I'm not the greatest. We still have to get Steve to do it. He didn't have a good session the last time he did it. So we'll try to get Steve in. I don't think Paige is. Oh, no, Paige did do it a little bit at the asylum this last weekend. And she did pretty good from what I heard. I wasn't there. And then, Dan, you've done it, obviously.
Yeah, I've done it numerous times, actually. And I mean, I think, to be honest, I think Sierra's better at it than I am. But, you know, I don't mind doing it. Now, there was a time that I did it down in the Egyptian Theater in DeKalb, and I ended up getting punched and scratched. So
yeah, that was on the episode.
And that
we had
what was that? Was that this year? This last year?
That was in season 2.
Season 2, yeah. We had to stop the investigation for one of us to come up and check his back and see that it was scratched.
Yeah.
How did you find that place? Besides, were you up in the? You were probably up in the balcony, weren't you?
No,
we were right down off the stage.
Yeah, 4 or 5 rows from the stage.
As a matter of fact, you and Steve were both filming off the stage.
Yeah, I think during that I was just sitting on the edge of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, for me, Dan's always known about the Egyptian, and we've investigated it before we were the show.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to us filming our investigation, I was also filming a student film there at the time. So I've been working a lot with the staff there for my student film stuff. And then now we're investigating there, and it just kind of fell together at the right time.
That was a great place. I really
love
enjoyed
the
it.
Egyptian.
We were up on the stage, and we were on the side that had the light, the stage light.
Mm-hmm.
Stays on all the time, and we were back there where those fuse panels were and that. And we had a bunch of stuff going on there, but
did you ever have anything in the dressing room?
Yes.
Okay, because we did too, and it was creepy.
Yeah, it was very creepy.
Yeah, the ones that are in there are the ones that really were left.
Yeah,
they never passed, and they're the ones that are, you know, I am the artist,
right? Don't
tell me, and they come at you.
We were at the round table that's down in the dressing room, and then it was the first stall that is the bathroom, and we're just sitting there at the table, and all of a sudden we hear this like this really weird noise.
It was weird.
And all of a sudden, you see Janine, who was one of the staff there. She just looks up and she's just like, "Hold on." Oh. And like she got big eyes, her mouth's open, and Dan goes, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah,
it happened like 3 times, and we're all like, "What the hell is that noise?" Creepiest thing ever.
Yeah, one time it sounded like a cat screeching, like you know, if you grabbed a cat by the tail, that's exactly what it sounded like.
But, you know, that room is supposed to have a weeping woman in there. So were we hearing that? I don't know, but it came across very strange.
Well, and then we caught something that did not make the episode because our camera quit. I just heard something outside my house.
I heard that too, actually.
Yeah, that was wild. I don't know what it was. But anyway, our camera had quit, but the Tascam did not. And when Larry and I listened back to it, but there was nothing to reference, so we left it out of the episode. But when we listened to it, he called me and he goes, "You got to hear this. This is wild." It literally, Greg, sounded like a woman being attacked, and you could hear the doors slamming in there. Like somebody was getting slammed around and thrown down.
I should dig that out.
And I told Larry, I said, you know what? If that truly happened, that is not something I want in our episode, because
it could be something traumatic that's being relived.
Be something very traumatic, and I just
maybe I won't dig it out.
It was kind of sickening.
Yeah, but one cool thing that wasn't sickening that we can talk about that did make the episode We were all on the stage, the whole building, only us on the stage. And we had the thermal going. I think Steve was holding the thermal at the time.
Yeah.
And up the rows, out of the auditorium into the concession stand, out in the lobby, one of the proximity lights for the concession stand turned on. And the way that Alex and Janine were sitting, they were facing out that direction and saw the light turn on.
When I asked about whereabouts does Irv hang out,
and you hear Alex go, what did he say? He said something along the lines of that he's creeped out.
Yeah.
And this is the definition of stoic. Like, this man does not get spooked. And that was the first thing that happened to him to make him go, okay, hold on a minute.
That's creepy.
And then later in the investigation, we're all leaving the dressing room and something brushes past his arm and scratches his elbow. And in the interview, we talk about it. You see him sprint past all of us to get out of there and stare and look back at the stairwell like, what the hell was that? And it scratched his elbow. And wow. he looked a little spooked. And like I said, this is a real stoic man. He does not spook easily. And after that, he kind of hung out in his office the rest of the night.
Yep. You guys have at it.
He's like, I got some work to do. You guys have fun.
Yep.
You guys got a few more minutes or not?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
We'll hang out.
Now, when we talk about Bill, we talk about Broadhead. And I know you guys have filmed a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I have been doing some things with Reggie Randall.
Yes.
And Reggie came down, and we do a lot. We do 2 shows together now. So we do a lot that way together, and he is just unbelievable on the spirit box, especially in cemeteries and talking. And he claimed he's a starseed. So he's an entirely different person than anybody that I ever run into. And when we were there, he left me for a minute, and I was in that 3rd floor far end classroom that had the desks in it.
Right. Yeah.
Where you had those little ones going across the floor. I don't know if you've seen them or not. About maybe this big, and they were like black. Mike Wright was behind me, and he was watching as I was doing the session, and he saw these things going across the floor.
Across the floor, up the walls, across the ceiling.
The wall, right.
They're all over the place. It's crazy.
And so he went ahead and left. And I was sitting there, and it must have been 32 to 31 degrees in the building, something like that. And I had my gloves off. And I've ice fished a whole hell of a lot my life. And I know what real cold is. And I was holding on to the antenna, and it started on my hand. And it was the only way I can describe it was like I took my hand, as cold as it was, and put it in a bucket that had big chunks of ice in it.
Wow.
And minnows, to grab a minnow out. And then it went up my arm. It went all the way up to here, and then it started coming down my side. And it, at the same time it was coming down from there, it was going up my leg. And then in my head, as I was still doing this Estes, because I kept on going, I was trying to figure out what the hell it was. As I was continuing to do that, I had this image in my head of something trying to straddle me.
Wow.
And, I said, okay, back off.
Yeah.
I didn't invite you. And at that point, it started, my hands started to warm up a little bit.
Sure.
And
I mean, at least buy me dinner first.
It's backing off. And then it wasn't even 2 minutes later, it came right back at me full force.
Wow.
And then I just had to tell him he was gone.
Yeah. Dan had some pretty intense cold spots in that building too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we filmed the first episode for season 1, it was in August, so the building was 90 degrees, and it was hot. You know, Bill's in a sleeveless and shorts, and he's hot. We're in all of our stuff we normally film in. It's hot
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm running a static cam because I don't know why, I just let it run, and I'm switching out stuff to start the next session that we were going to do. And in the video, you see both Dan and Bill go, ooh, and then start going, I'm
really cold.
freezing. Both of them at the same time. Well, the way that our microphones were set up back then, they would record continuously. At that exact moment, the recording stopped, and all the file before that got corrupted. So now when I put the video and the audio together on the editor, I could see all this audio stopped right then and there, but then it was all the whole way back.
Yep.
It was
Who do
all
you think it
garbage
was?
audio. Whatever
Both
the
Bills and
spirits
mine.
did that affected both of them at the same time, I think they also messed with the microphones.
Yep.
Because in the room that it happened, which was the funeral parlor, I believe it was Chad and Travis with Greg. They had an SLS, and the moment they walked out of that room, their SD card got blanked.
Whoa.
So whoever it is that's in that room knows how to mess with your files.
Yep.
And it happened to us, and it happened to them.
You think it was an honest to God spirit, or do you think it was something else?
I didn't feel anything. I'd have to ask Dan.
I mean, it could have been. You know, the thing is we've never had problems communicating with spirits there.
No.
Ever. So.
And we didn't for the rest of the night either.
Well, and that wasn't the first time that we'd had stuff corrupted there.
Yeah.
So we had a static cam in there when
Victoria, that was August.
When we first went there, before we shot Expedition Entity there, and I seem to remember that camera got corrupted. Because Larry and I are thinking, okay, because we walked out of there with Bill and oh gosh, who was all with us that time? It was one of the first times we went up there.
Andrew's cousin.
Andrew was there, his cousin,
Yeah.
and
we were
Bill's
kids, and then one of kids' friends.
Yeah, we were hearing stuff, and Larry's like, "Oh, we're sure to have caught it on the camera."
Right.
And the camera was all corrupted. Well, and we had a task cam on top of it that was all corrupted, if I remember right.
So Victoria in chat said there are huge magnetic flux in August, solar flares. I'd believe that if it happened to other cards too.
Yeah, but it
only happened
in that room
to those two at the exact same time,
at
the exact same moment where they both went, "Ooh, I'm freezing." So I would believe it if it was also one of the cameras. I had a camera running at the time too. I also had the task cam recording not too far away. That didn't get messed up. Just the two lav mics. So
which the task cam and the camera is what saves that session, because that task cam is what you're hearing when you watch the episode.
The only audio that's left. We have since gotten a lot more redundancy for backup audio and stuff like that, but because of that reason, because that got corrupted.
Carol says something happened to Reggie's equipment there also.
Yeah, I believe it.
Darn tooting it did.
Something in that building knows how to mess with your stuff, and just to mess with you, they're like, deleted. It's gone now.
But what I want to say, while we're on the subject of Broadhead,
Learn while you burn.
Yeah,
we burned that day.
Is that Bill really makes the building? I mean, that building and those spirits, they're there and they're so welcoming because of Bill. And if Bill sells the building ever, and someone else buys it and allows paranormal investigations to go on, it's not going to be the same experience as we've all got to experience.
Right. Well, outside of even our show, I filmed ACG Paranormal's documentary there, Sounds of Spirits. And, they did a deep dive on Bill and the emotions of the building and how music affects the spirits and all this great stuff. That documentary, which, you know, I was a big part of, if Bill wasn't in that documentary, it would not be the same.
It would have never happened.
It is such a great documentary because of the emotion that Bill brings about talking about the building and the spirits and his connection to everything. And you know, you could still watch it. It's on YouTube on ACG Paranormal.
Yeah.
It's great. You know, all the stuff that we were able to capture, you know, without Bill, it's nothing.
Now, with Bill being under the weather,
right,
and of having the surgery,
mm-hmm.
do you think the spirits are going to be up to par, or are they going to wait until he's back to his normal strength?
If Bill stayed home, they would probably wait. The problem is you can't keep Bill home unless you chain him to the bed.
No.
Right.
So
right.
when
I'm saying,
Mike and Nate went up there last weekend or something, there was Bill at the building.
They were, and
So,
everything was going.
He couldn't go above the second floor.
Okay.
Because he's recovering, but you know, he's still there. And if he's there, the spirits will be interactive.
That's great.
So
Rez says, if the spirits of Broadhead can manipulate modern cameras, what about trying an old VHS camera as an experiment?
We can try it.
We've still got our high 8 and our mini DVs.
You've got all of our tapes from the mini DVs.
The problem is we have no way of transferring them on.
Yeah, we'd have to take them to a place. There's a place in Crystal Lake that'll charge you to do it, but my problem with that is
it's 480 at best.
I don't care about that. My problem with that is look at all the times we filmed there, and that was the one time we've had something happen.
Right.
So if I'm walking around with this 480 camera and nothing happens to it, either I wasted that time filming it because nothing happened, or I have to put this 480 video into a 4K video and it ain't going to look good.
Or do you think there was something that prompted them to only do it that one time?
No, we were switching gears. Dan and Bill were just kind of chit-chatting.
Yeah, we were just making small talk while Larry was switching stuff up.
I think you might have been trying to get Elizabeth to light the K2 up. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing major.
No.
I actually just walked out of the room and was coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought Jenny Davis was in the top here.
She was in here before commenting.
Yeah.
Well, on the Supernatural Inc. one. I don't know what chat you guys are watching. I'm watching Supernatural Inc.
Yeah, she was up there a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching the chat off of the StreamYard thing. So, so if you guys talk to somebody that I'm not seeing, that's probably why.
How are you watching chat on StreamYard?
I don't know. It's
just a straight StreamYard. It's
just a straight chat.
I see no chat.
You see no chat.
How do you see chat?
It says private chat or comments. Go to comments.
Go over to the right where it says comments.
Son of a. Okay.
And hey, Greg, he's the smart one.
He's the cameraman. Never go ahead and screw with the cameraman. You know that.
I try not to.
Well, look at all these comments.
Yeah, Anthony Cabello just stepped in and said hello.
Hello.
And then Carol, hello to him.
Yeah.
You know where Anthony is right now? Anthony's down in New Orleans.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I want to go down there.
I want to go down there really bad.
And everybody's down at Fear Fest. Reggie's down at Fear Fest. Anthony's down there.
Nice.
All these people are down at Fear Fest, and I'm here. But you know what? I'd rather talk to you guys right now.
Sierra's going to New Orleans in December. What? All right. Nice. Make sure you go live on the page, Sierra. You got to get us some good ghost hunting.
Okay. Resneck says, if the spirits at Broadhead can manipulate modern cameras, Oh, that's the one that you were talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the one I was
okay.
mentioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
I'd
sorry.
be down to try it, but again, it's like, how many times do I have to try it before lightning strikes, you know? And at the same time, you know, Bill's kind of busy. Like, he's booked up a
Bill's
lot.
very busy. Yeah,
So
he's
for
really
us to get in there, you know, if it's a weekend that somebody cancels and he invites us, I'll go, but I don't want to take a weekend that he can make money.
yeah.
Especially because they're replacing the roof and there's other things that to get replaced. If he can make money, I'd rather him do that.
Right. That's for sure. Got to
Yeah,
save the place.
Right.
You know, Bill's done a lot of stuff.
I am a technology nerd. I'd never thought to click on comments. It's my story and I'm sticking to it.
For all the people that are in here, you know, what's really interesting is there's one
Did he
no,
freeze?
that wasn't.
No,
That was
okay.
no, I didn't freeze. Resnick was on the shows the other day, and I'm trying to figure out who he is.
He
You know
works
who he
with
is?
Christina Bloom,
Mm.
and
Does he really?
he's been chatting with me about some of the SOC stuff, a part of our research study.
Okay.
He sent me a couple links about translations and stuff like that, and you know, once we're kind of done with conferences and stuff like that, you know, I'm going to try to start piecing together more of the Black Hawk War stuff, and then he's going to be helping me out.
Yeah, he seems to be an interesting person. I
Yeah,
know that I
meeting him in
spotted
person,
him
he's really cool.
and on quite a few of the chats, and I don't know if he's going to be out there. Well, we're all going to be out at Rock Island, right?
I don't think Christina is.
No, but I mean, you guys are, right?
I won't be.
I am. Yeah, that'll be Paige and I. Sierra has a prior engagement, and I think Steve does too. And then Dan's a loser. Dan doesn't want to come down and hang with us.
My son's homecoming. It's my son's senior homecoming, and
well, what's that got? You're not going with her.
No, but
then why don't you come down?
He's playing in the game the night before, and then okay. It's his last homecoming dance. So
yeah,
if I can sneak down for a couple hours, I will. But I'm not going to.
If you just to play the game, you know, watch him play his game. That's important. I don't know if he's going to dance that spectacular that you're going to have to watch him.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to his dance, but to take pictures and stuff. And
you got to be there with mom.
Yeah, I gotta be part of his last.
Victoria says all they have are brothels, nothing cool like y'all have. I want to investigate a brothel.
Well, Victoria,
we have two female investigators that the inhabitants of the brothel might talk to. I would love to investigate a brothel.
Now, you guys have been down to, and I forgot about Rhodes Hotel.
No.
Have you ever been to the Rhodes?
Mm-mm.
Like we said earlier, Dan's work kind of prevents us from going to a lot of places.
You gotta, Dan, when you go on vacation, you have to go to the Rhodes.
Dan doesn't get vacation. All of his vacation is used for us to film. That's his vacation.
Oh. Well, I'm going to say goodbye.
I'm a happy camper.
Listen, it's not my fault that your work requires you to burn 24 hours of off time to take off a weekend you already have off.
So what am I supposed to do?
Tell them that you're retired.
I am a full-time corrections officer, you guys, and it is a very demanding job. And then that's what I get to deal with after all the other bullshit I deal with.
Listen,
okay, we're
excellence requires commitment.
We're going to say thank you to Dan and Larry, and we're going to say goodnight to everybody in the chat. And if you guys would hang around for a few minutes,
absolutely,
that would be great.
Yeah.
And to everybody there, love and hugs, and we'll see you guys around.
Hit us up
Good
on
night.
Facebook or Instagram, guys.
Yeah,
Our
we're-
show's
yeah,
Expedition
I was just
Unity
saying.
on Paraflix.
Expedition Unity on Paraflix.
Larry,
Check them out.
throw that link tree in the chat.
Yeah, throw that link out there.
Can
Please.
Can I put it in this chat? Will it send it to all the chats?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm
If you-
gonna find
if you-
out. Hold on. Let me join the chat. Oh, I gotta connect my YouTube channel. All right, I'll just put it in the
Thanks,
Supernatural
Carol.
link.
Thanks,
Carol's
everybody,
right.
for stopping by.
All right,
We
I'm gonna put
appreciate
the
it.
link on the Facebook Live here. It's our link tree. If you just type in link tree and then Expedition Entity, it'll come right up.
Yeah,
And
it's-
then there you've got how to find us on Paraflix, our agent's website, the different trailers we have out, all of our social medias, IMDb, our merch store that's on there. It's a lot of stuff to find us.
And the last thing would be to remember Scott Grunwald. If you get an opportunity, please say a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, good night, everybody, and we'll see you later.
Night, guys.
Night.
Good night, everybody.